It's so funny. I just got a notification on my watch that says Twisted Pair with David Yancey and Ash Red is now going live. And I'm like, really? No
No, we're
kidding.
not.
We aren't? I need to come up with a way to be able to time that countdown and the go live because it's always I'm either going live before I hit the countdown or I'm hitting the countdown before I'm going live, and so now the time gets off on that. But anyways, welcome to the Twisted Pair. I'm Graybeard.
And I am Ash Red. And today we have a special guest. And if you watch Cigar Podcast, you will recognize this face. If you are in the cigar industry, you will also recognize this face. It is the one and only Garrett Robinson.
Shh, and the
Woo!
crowd
Okay, there
goes
you go.
wild.
And the Vikings still suck.
Okay. Well,
Oh,
that was a good
she
show. Have a good one, everybody.
she brought it on quick. I
Yeah,
mean, she brought
Yeah.
it on
boys.
quick. All right. Let me bring everybody back in. Come on, let's get back into what this is about. This is about good cigars and how good the
Yeah.
Cowboys are and good drinks. So, wait a minute. Sorry. So, Red, what are you bringing to the pairing?
Okay. So we had a faux pas with shipping. So since that, I am smoking a different cigar, but don't worry, we're going to come back and revisit and do a pairing with the cigar. But since we decided to do iced coffee today, I am doing a caramel. Oh no, I'm sorry. Uh, I do know what I'm drinking. And brown sugar shaken oat milk espresso. That's what I'm doing for my iced coffee. And I am smoking a porcelain. So
Oh man, love that
yes,
Very
porcelain.
good.
yeah.
Yes, very good.
And so it is like one of those go-to cigars for like coffee and wine for me. Just like whenever I have that. And I love it because it's a Connie, or what we call Connecticut, but it's got that Nicaraguan, and it's not one that's like a light. Just because it looks porcelain and delicate, it will bite you back. It is phenomenal. So
And we've
that's what I'm
talked
doing.
about that.
It goes really
We've
well.
talked we've talked about that whole Connecticut and the misnomers of it so many times, but now that you're actually smoking it, we could actually talk about that. But not right now.
Hmm.
I'm going to let our
Yeah.
guest go last because he's probably the only one that's actually smoking the cigar that we're trying to feature here because I got hit by the shipping as well. So I'm going with the Alec Bradley Gatekeeper. Uh, because I knew it was a cigar that was going to balance well with my iced coffee and stand up to the coffee notes on it. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I am not an iced coffee drinker. I could not tell you what kind of iced coffee this is. I usually like my coffee in the morning hot and black with a little bit of creamer. And so I asked my go-to people when it comes to iced coffee, which is my daughter and son-in-law, and they're sitting there like, okay, so do you want it coffee strong? Do you want it sweet? Do you want it medium sweet? What kind of flavors do you want? And I said, I want iced coffee. That's all I know. So guess what I got? I
Iced
got
coffee.
iced coffee, and that's all I know, and that it
Mm,
tastes good. So,
Dutch
and
Bros.
yes,
Yes.
Dutch Rose. So I don't know if this is high quality coffee, like that high quality H2O,
Okay.
but I know it tastes good, so I'm good. So Garrett, what
Okay.
about you, brother?
Well, I apologize. Um, I should have reached out to you after I got the shipping notification. So I do take some responsibility in that. But what I am smoking tonight is um, our Don Doroteo. This is in Bellicoso, and it's my favorite Vitola in the line. And for those who aren't familiar with Don Doroteo, we just launched last year at the PCA trade show in July. So very new for a lot of people. Still went
Hmm.
under the radar PCA 2022. we are looking to make major waves at this year's PCA 2023 show. So to just give an intro to this particular cigar, this at time of release was a 14-year-old cigar. It had been sitting at La Aurora for 14 years. We've got a Sumatra binder, Sumatra wrapper, and then a Nicaraguan, Dominican, and Brazilian, Colombian filler.
Okay, so my first question right off the bat is going to be, it's a Sumatra. Is that an actual true Indonesian Sumatra, or is it a Dominican Sumatra, Honduran Sumatra? What?
It is an Ecuadorian Sumatra.
Okay, so it's an Ecuadorian Sumatra. Very, very good. And the reason, you watch some of our shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're familiar with what it is that we do. We don't just do the standard pairings of, smoke a medium bodied with this, or smoke a light body with this. No, we break it down, and that's why, my funny story that I love to tell is I walked into a cigar lounge and saw Nick Perdomo there. And I asked him, I said, recommend one of your cigars. And so he gave me one of his newer 10th anniversaries. And I said, so what's the seed? What seed is it? And he goes, this is a Maduro. And I looked at him and I said, come on, Nick, you know that there's no seed that's called a Maduro. And he goes, oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot who you are, Graybeard. This is our proprietary Corojo. And so, our goal is to get people to stop describing cigars, the leaves as a, let's apply the label laws here. Tell me it's a, Ecuadorian Sumatra or a, Cuban Sumatra, because I want to get completely different flavors from those. Anyways, I'm off my soapbox.
No, and I appreciate that soapbox, and for me, it goes in ebbs and flows. What I want, what information I want, and where I'm at right now is I want a cigar unbanded and just handed to me, and let the cigar sing. And if it's a good cigar, it's a great cigar.
Right.
Obviously, I'm biased because I'm VP of sales for a cigar company, but at the end of the day, I'm still a cigar consumer, and I'm still smoking a lot of other stuff, not just Don Doroteo.
So we'll get to that question later, because Albert, who's on with us right now, Albert always asks us that question. But we've gotten one half of your pairing. What's the other half of your pairing?
So I have been sober for 28 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm actually jealous that you guys are drinking coffee. I should have grabbed a coffee, because I'll tell you what, this cigar is medium bodied, and it is just absolutely perfect with a medium body coffee. Straight black coffee is how I enjoy coffee, but second to coffee is a bubbly water. So Topo Chico is at the top of the list. Today I only had a grapefruit bubbly water. So
very, very interesting, because that the combination of bubbly water we know is a palate cleanser, and grapefruit, along with other citrus, is a palate cleanser. And so with every sip and draw, you're going to get citrus notes, which I'm going to be really interested in how that's going to balance out with your cigar. But you're going to cleanse your palate every single time. So every single time, it's like you're getting a brand new experience over and over.
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous there. We should go to a commercial break if we actually had commercials and sponsors, and you get a coffee and me go get a Sprite. We'll be right back after this messages.
We'd love to talk at the show.
So, So let's talk about your cigar because you said it was 14. It was aged for 14 years, correct?
Mhm.
And
Correct.
so, and I just kind of want to say, because some people, we talked about how we have aged tobacco and we keep it, and like a lot of times, some people it's like 2 years, 5 years, and then you'll have the 10. But the 14, that's kind of almost like a unicorn. You don't hear about very many cigars having that much age on it for it.
So I did
So,
my due diligence.
hmm
I reached out to a lot of people, and look, my time on How About That Cigar has been an absolute blessing for relationships in this industry,
Hmm.
and I'm able to utilize a lot of those. So I reached out to people
hmm
and I was like, look, have you ever heard of another brand coming out with a 14-year-old age cigar? Nobody's ever heard of it.
mm
So,
no,
and here's what we do know too is that there are three tobaccos in this cigar that were aged 7 years. And then
wow.
the other few were younger, one at 12 months and one at 18 months. So
So you've got tobacco in there that's already got really kind of gone through their first stage of maturation and into the second stage.
that's right.
And then on top of that,
And
it's been sitting there in the aging room, so really it's gone
hmm
into its second stage. What everything's kind of gone into its second stage of maturation. So that means that's those acidities and ammonias that we
hmm
classify as strength have subdued. Oh man. Um, excuse me one moment. I need to go order some cigars real quick. I'm
I'm looking.
salivating at just the thought of that.
okay.
When
So,
when I heard
oh,
the
go ahead.
story, so I was at PCA 22 with How About That Cigar, and we were just at the very corner of this huge hall, and we're getting our game plan together. And as we're standing there looking, I see this booth, and I'm like, Don Dorito, what's
You're
I
just
don't
making fun of me now because of what I said before we started.
no.
No.
That's exactly what I thought. 100%. I'm not exaggerating or telling a story. So we decided to make them our very first interview of PCA 22. And as they're telling me the story, 14-year-old cigar, some of the tobaccos are 7-year aged. I was I was like, isn't that already aged out? Because a lot of
hmm
tobaccos do age out. A lot of cigars do
Yeah.
age out.
Hmm.
That was my original concern with this cigar. And he gave me one, and I'm doing the interview, and I'm smoking it, and I can't concentrate on what he's saying because the cigar is blowing my mind. It
I
is
can believe that. Yeah.
unbelievable.
I think, and you're absolutely right. A lot of cigars do age out, and some of it has
hmm
to do with the terroir of where the tobacco comes from.
Yep.
But I think a lot of it has to do with just with the quality of the tobacco that they're putting into it.
hmm
Are
Right.
they using their top line quality strains in their fillers? Because we know that all of your good companies are going to be using their best of the best, or near it, with the wrappers, because they want those wrappers to be pristine and they want those binders to really be solid in there. But I can imagine, and with especially with the mass production that they have to do, that they're not going to this extreme of a quality in your fillers. Well, that filler is going to be what's going to allow that cigar to last because of all of the oils and how fast those oils come out and escape the cigar.
That's right.
But then also, you also have to with fillers, and I'm gonna it, and I know that y'all do not use short fillers
Hmm.
in y'all cigar. I can guarantee you. But a lot of cigars will use short fillers, and if you have those short fillers, it's not gonna last.
No.
And one thing is like it's kind of like if you know a cigar, this is me, and now this is where people call me a cigar snob. And you know what? I will gladly accept that because here's my issue with short fillers too. Okay, it doesn't your cigar is not going to last as long as if you have something with the long fillers, right? The shelf life on it. The other thing is like how many times, like if you're carrying on a conversation with someone, are you going to have to relight that cigar because it can't stay lit? So
Yep.
that's my other issues. There's a little sidebar for short fillers, but usually on high end, and I'm gonna say you're a luxury cigar. I'm gonna
Hmm.
classify that you are classified as a
Absolutely.
luxury cigar, and it's kind of like whenever you're going because like some people they're not sure about buying a luxury cigar. And so whenever you have the chance, opportunity, buy a luxury cigar, smoke it. It's kind of like whenever you treat yourself to something that's luxurious that you like. And
Hmm.
that is whenever you smoke a cigar that is treated and it's the best of the best, it takes you to a whole new level of cigars experience, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So
So,
if you don't mind, if I take
yes,
that question,
That's why I put it up there.
yes.
so I have worked with a lot of I don't know. I don't even think Skip Martin would call himself a master blender. Matt, would Skip call himself a master blender? Yeah, he would
No,
not.
no.
So, but I talked to Skip about this, and he said that after 8 years, most cigars have aged out. That's
Mhm.
most cigars.
Right.
There are very few cigars that can be kept for 10 plus years or 20 years and still have, or like in wine, there's this roller
Mhm.
coaster of
Mhm.
years that'll dip into and it's not good, and then there's other years that it'll raise to and it's good, and they hit this. Cigars don't do that. They will hit an aged out period, and then they won't taste like much of anything. If you talk to George Padron, he will tell you, smokes my cigars right now. Don't age them.
Yeah.
Padrones don't age well.
No,
And
It,
I have had
hey,
a Padron 7000 that was given to me at 14 years, and it
yep,
smoked amazingly. So I,
correct.
I will say that there's one caveat to that, and that depends how are you taking care of your cigars while they're aging.
No doubt. No doubt. And absolutely, storage has a huge part to do with it. You can't just stick it in your closet. Certainly never put your cigars in a
can't
freezer.
leave it in my car in the Texas heat.
Absolutely never. Yeah, none of that. But if we're assuming that cigars are being kept in an appropriate, temperature, humidity environment,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
even still, and look, I had a Padron 1926 that I brought down to the Great Smoke 21, and that was 21 years old, and it was mind blowing. It was
Yeah.
amazing. It hadn't
Right.
aged out, but I do know that. Let's say I had the entire box of 26s. Not all of
Hmm.
them would have been amazing.
Nope.
Right.
Nope.
Correct. And
So,
that's kind of like whenever you have those expressions about smoke them while you got them, is because you never know what's going to happen. Like, for example, right now in Texas, we're experiencing this major heat right now, right? So, in say your AC goes out, they're not able to fix it within a week or whatever, that's going to impact how your cigars are. Or like when we had that freeze.
Yep.
So it's kind of even though I keep a really good consistency on my cigars, on my tepidors, and I keep them well hydrated and how they're supposed to do, you don't know what crisis might occur. And whenever your cigars go through something like that, I want to say it takes a year off. It's kind of is how I look at it. It's like when we had that freeze and I didn't have heat for a week or week and a half for 2 weeks, that impacts my cigars greatly. So
Hmm.
Oh
I think
yeah.
that's kind of like another thing is like, yes, everything can be pristine and you can have it, but you also have things that come about that's going to impact that. So, and I've had it where it's like I had a cigar and it aged out. It was younger tobacco, but it had, well, I don't want to say it was younger, but it had aged out. It had been like, it was 5 years. And I've even, like, I would say between 5 to 8 years sometimes with some cigars, if it's on certain tobaccos.
I would say right in that range. A good probably I would say a range of 3 to 6, 7 years. Is a good time to age if you want to age them.
Yep.
I there's so many variables that can come into play. I mean, even
Hmm.
your upper ends like your Byrons and your Opus X's, where they're using the tops of the tops of the tops. Um, Depending upon we were talking about the fillers, okay? So, and the fillers having a big part of it, depending upon how hot some of the fillers got in the pilones. Did they
Hmm.
reach the 149 so that they push it to the limit of the 149 degrees because they really wanted to then shock it down? So they shocked it and stopped that fermentation process because it got to the fermentation that they were level. That's going to have an impact on it. And all of these variables we don't know on it.
Right.
So is there a way to tell if a cigar has been aged out? You smoke it. If the flavors are gone,
Yeah.
it's aged out.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really the
But
only way to know.
but I want
Yeah.
to but I want to come back to where, like, you are saying you're a 14 age tobacco, but
Hmm.
Mhm.
the aging process when it is kept in that aging room, you
Mhm.
know, is completely different than when it's already rolled in a cigar. I want to, like, make sure that we understand that
Well,
because the storage
so
and how it's
actually,
done.
this cigar was rolled 15 years ago.
What?
So there were tobaccos that were 7 years old at time of rolling. So there's tobaccos here that are now 22
Uh-huh.
years old. Um, and that's
So, like,
why
they're
when I
barely
was doing the
older than
math,
me.
that's exactly right.
Uh huh.
Yes,
Uh huh.
barely.
Uh huh.
Me too. Yeah.
Moving on. Moving on.
Yeah.
So so
We
20
got to
so
move on because
22.
I'm going to say something that's going to she'll kick my ass next time I see her. Now keep in mind she's 5'2", and I'm 6'5", but yet this
I'm
woman
five
here
three.
okay, she's 5'3" with shoes on. This woman scares me.
Well,
Anyway,
anyway, so
so
you were
22 years.
22.
So 20, there's tobaccos in here that are 22 years old. And
Mm.
Good take.
um, all I know is that not all tobaccos age the same. And Dave, you hit it on the head. There's there's some science there, but on top of the science, it's art
Hmm.
Oh
because not
yeah.
every pilon, as you know, reacts the same way, and it takes these artists that are down working with the tobaccos to listen to them sing, to
Hmm.
listen to them in each of their songs, and making sure that each of these pilones are fermenting appropriately, and what that tobacco is supposed to be doing. So
Right.
Oh, I mean, you miss rotation because a lot of people don't realize is that in the
Oh yeah,
pilones that they rotate the leaves. Okay, so
rotate
in the
it. Hmm.
pilone is like it's like a bale. It's like a big
It's a
four
huge,
by four
yes,
by 4 foot bale. That
several hundreds of pounds.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah,
sometimes that they'll cover it. Some people will
sometimes they
do
won't.
will do dry polones. Some people will do moist
Hmm.
polones.
yep.
All depending upon what it is that they're wanting to achieve. And so that artistry, that craftsmanship, is just mind blowing of
Hmm.
what they can do.
Or if they had a rain, or if they are in a drought,
Yeah.
or all of those
Hmm.
environmental variables.
Right.
Um, like I said, I really call them
Fantastic.
artists.
Yeah. And
They're
and then like
Absolutely.
artists.
some of them, yeah, some of them are still doing like the old barns where they don't
Yep.
have like the sides where they're doing it. Some of them
Yep.
have like humidified barns. So I mean, there is a lot of science. I call that part science. Like you're calling it artistry. For me, it's like the science of it, and it's amazing. People they take the temperature of those stacks every day and they chart it. It's like a medical chart.
Hmm.
Each
Yep.
pallet
Correct.
has its own little medical chart and they take the temperature and they make sure that it's doing because it can get too hot. So we know what happens if it gets too hot, it can burn. So you want it set at a certain temperature and also it tells when it's ready as
Hmm.
well, the temperature for it.
Yep.
So
And well, and not only burning, but you also have rotting that can get into place there. So
yes,
Yeah,
if it's
mold.
coming up
the
into the
moisture
130,
too.
140 plus, you can get mold and you can get that decaying
Mhm.
of it coming into place there. And if you ever smoked a cigar that had some of that mold, some of that decaying in there, it's not pleasant. And I've sent some back.
Yes. And it's kind of like what Dan Thompson just said. He's like the biochemistry of fermentation is fascinating and so complex, and it is.
It,
And it's just when you break down a cigar and each little step, it is just like mind blowing, and it's just it's I think it's more than fascinating. And then that's when you kind of get into the nerdy cigar talk, and which is for some people they kind of like they don't care about it, but those who are passionate about it and they want to learn more, it's very fascinating and intriguing. So,
It
what
it
other?
really
Because
is.
you talked about this one, so how are you? Because you talked about this cigar. So, what else do y'all have?
so currently, this is the single offering that we have. Now we have it available in five
Right?
different vitolas.
Okay.
But
Okay.
this blend is the only blend we currently have in the marketplace right now.
Okay.
We only have about 16, 15 and a half, 16,000 cigars left of this particular one. And once this is gone,
Hmm. It's gone.
not only that, even if, let's say, we were to try an attempt to do this again, we would actually have to, that Colombian farm is no longer.
Really.
So,
Oh.
yeah. So, the
So this
uniqueness of
really is
this,
a unicorn.
it 100% is a unicorn. Now at PCA, what we're excited to bring to
Hmm.
market is our new line called Salt of the Earth, and that's comprised of two
Oh.
different blends:
Okay.
Piedra de Angular, um, Cornerstone, and Piedra de Viva, Livingstone, and they are incredible. So this is going to be our new core line cigar. Our regular production being made at La Aurora again.
Oh.
And if I can quickly just talk about the history of Don Doroteo and
Yes.
La
Yes.
Aurora.
Yes,
Please do.
please.
Yes.
That was going to be my
Yes.
next question. So thank you for stealing the thunder. But please, no, please go
Yep.
ahead. We
So
told you we were going to give you shit.
hey, bring it, bring it. So Doroteo started growing tobacco in the Dominican Republic at the age of 16 in 1928.
Wow.
He sold exclusively to La Aurora for over 5 decades before
Wow.
totally retiring and kind of doing his own little thing for a few years. And after he passed away in 2012, um, grandsons Juan and then Aaron Hernandez, they wanted to bring back farming to their family and to their community.
Hmm.
So in uh, 2020, at the peak of the pandemic, they're like, let's do this. What better time is it to do? So they started
Yeah.
formulating a plan to do this. They brought on a partner and great guy, Brandon. Um, and what they bought some land just a few blocks from the home where Juan's family grew up and lived in the Dominican Republic in Santiago, just outside of Santiago.
Oh.
Um, rekindled that relationship with La Aurora once it was, proven the provenance between Juan, he was the grandson of Doroteo. Manny and
Mhm.
Noah said, it would be my honor if you were to bring a cigar to market from our aging room. And rather than just come up with this, cigar, let's make it special. And that's
Mhm.
really what Juan wanted to do. He wanted to bring a cigar to market that was, it's called El Legado, the legacy.
Hmm.
So to really honor his grandfather's legacy in this industry, they went through and they sampled several cigars. And it wasn't until they picked this cigar did Manny say, that's a 14-year-old cigar.
Wow. So
So
so so they had no idea. They were just trying different blends that Manny already had in there, already rolled, and found the one that represented what they were looking for.
exactly,
Love it.
exactly. So then they learned, the blend, and that, to my knowledge, there is no other cigar on the market with this Colombian tobacco in it, and that. There's a unique flavor profile in here that I
Mhm.
still can't. I've heard people say cinnamon and um, everything from cinnamon to bergamot
Really.
uh, for this, and it's that Colombian piece that is just so unique and
Mhm.
so rare in a cigar blend. So um, that's what makes this cigar work. So this story started in 1928 with a relationship between Doroteo and La Aurora and the tobacco that he provided for La Aurora. And now um, Don Doroteo has a farm, and on our second crop, again, selling our crop exclusively to La Aurora. And for those who don't know, La
Mhm.
Aurora is the oldest,
Oldest Dominican.
um, yeah, it is the oldest factory in the Dominican Republic. 1918, I think, something like
Yeah,
that.
and I think that they're one of the few that did not originate, that old, that did not originate from Cuba, that they
From the
started
Cuban,
out,
correct.
yeah,
Mhm.
from the Cuban,
They started
because
there.
they
Yeah.
they started there. And what I find is really cool is that it's using Colombian fillers. So that's really going
Mhm.
back to the true history of where the tobacco came from. Because
Mhm.
contrary to popular belief, the tobacco did not originate in Cuba. It originated in Colombia and in those surrounding countries as the Tiano
Mhm.
tribes migrated over through the Caribbeans and rested in Cuba.
Uh, Dave, your knowledge never ceases to amaze me.
Well, thank you. I read a lot. I study a lot.
You do.
I
And it
tell my
shows.
kids I tell my kids that if I ever stop learning, pull the plug, because that means my brain's dead. And joke, half joke, but I'm also serious. So you
Yeah.
answered a couple of our viewers' questions. The billionaire, he asked, what makes Doroteo different from other cigars, and you answered that, and you also answered Dan Thompson's question of what's the backstory of
That's right.
obtaining tobacco. I want to kind of come back to you a little bit, as we're going through this, because we're going to jump back and forth all through this. But I don't want to forget this question because I think this is such an interesting question, and it's one that we ask, as we talk to other people in the cigar industry. So, what is your pet peeve about the cigar industry? We usually say, what's the one thing that you'd like to see change in the culture, and what is the very first cigar you ever smoked, if you can remember back that far.
Yeah. So, pet peeve. I mean, there's a lot of them. The reason why I never use a public cutter is because I've watched way too many people suck on their cigar first and then cut it.
Hmm.
Um, that's So that would be number one. Number two would be seeing tobacconists treat women like they only want flavored cigars.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my
We've
second
talked
one.
we've talked about those two. I would add probably my third would be, coming back to the Cuban, is that, oh, I only smoke Cubans. Well, consider
Good for
yourself.
you.
Yes, congratulations. Moving on.
Great, great.
Moving on. And what
Oh,
what
yeah.
was what was your first cigar you ever smoked?
This is a fun story. So I was 19 years old, and the first franchise Jimmy John's opened up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I was the manager of that shop. And 6 months later, a cigar shop opened up just a few doors down. Manager of the shop came over, and he said, "Hey, have you ever had a premium cigar?" And I said, "Well, I smoke Grenadiers with my dad hunting and fishing all the time." And he said,
No.
"That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's not what I'm talking
Yeah.
about."
He's like, yeah, no.
No.
And I'm 19. I don't know the difference. And so he said, "Well,
Mhm.
would you trade me a sub for a cigar?" And it's like, "Sure, let's do this." So he handed me a Fuente Hemingway Classic,
Aw.
and
Okay.
I went home after my shift, and I bit it open with my teeth, and lit it. It was wonderful. I mean,
Mhm.
a Fuente Hemingway for your first premium cigar, you're done.
It's not bad.
Yes. No.
Right.
No. I can't argue with that. Hemingway, the short story, was one of my top fives for 2021.
Yeah. And
Fantastic
that
cigar.
Cameroon wrapper, there's something about anytime I smoke that true Marifel Cameroon wrapper, it brings me back to that place. It just has a special place in my heart.
Love it. Okay, so this was just what, 20 years ago. So
That was 1997.
so
So that was
so
the same year I
almost.
started smoking cigars
So, damn it! I'm
at
one of these
19.
days I'm going to find one of these days I'm going to find somebody who's been have somebody on the show who's been smoking cigars longer than I have.
Not a lot of people were smoking in the 20s, man.
I know. I mean,
You're gonna find
yeah,
it.
but
Yeah.
I had some pretty damn good cigars back then, and it was really hard to find. But at least I paid 5 cents for a cigar, my first cigar.
Well, a lot of them were
All right.
Candela too, right?
I mean, yeah, except for we called them Claros back then.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yep.
Yeah. 5 cents.
No, I smoked my first cigar in '92,
Oh,
and
nice. Okay.
yeah, so only a couple years
So
later.
you're not too much. Yeah, you're not too much before us. It was illegal for us to smoke in '92.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I was already
and I
well
don't
into my
think that we
20s.
would have appreciative. Yeah, I don't think at that age we would have been appreciative. But
No, that's just it. Like I
you know,
had, like I said, I've been sober for 28 years, and the best alcohol, to my knowledge, that I ever had was a Glenlivet. I couldn't even tell you the year it was, but I could tell you that it was completely wasted on me because all I wanted to do was get drunk. You
Hmm.
know. So yeah,
mhm.
it would have been absolutely wasted on me.
Well, back then, that Glenlivet was considered a Highland Scotch, and now it's considered a Speyside Scotch.
Interesting.
But that's a whole nother story, and that's a whole nother
Yeah.
show.
All right.
So, tell us a bit about how you got into your own YouTube show.
So I was on this cigar forum, and this guy and I had traded messages back and forth on this forum for a while, and his username was a huge nerd, and which I loved. Um, and he came back and he sent some pictures of, outdoors and cigars, and I said, "Oh, cool. Where'd you go fishing?" And he said, "Oh, you wouldn't know it. It's a small lake in northern Minnesota." And I said, "Try me." And we quickly found out that we lived 20 minutes apart from each other.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
And I invited him to come out and hang out with this men's group that I do on Wednesday nights. It's actually going on right now in my background. Right now, we're
Hello, everyone.
15. Well, they can't hear it, but yeah, this men's group is hugely important to me, and so Matt came down, and we started a great friendship. We both have been doing some reviewing stuff, and Matt said, "I really want to do some YouTube stuff. I want to, and I have this idea, and here's the name, and I haven't told anybody the name, and and it was, how about that cigar?" And it was like, and I was like, "Bro, I'm in." And so now all credit of building How About That Cigar is Matt Ty. He is he's the guy that does 99.9% of everything in the background, and has been the one that has kept How About That Cigar rocking and rolling. And through relationships that Matt had, a few relationships that I had, we were able to get some really great people on early on, and some support from other podcasters like Will Cooper from Cigar Coop, and the guys at Dojo and Developing Palates, and the support from all of those guys was just absolutely paramount to our success. And as we just kept trucking along, it kept growing, and it has been an amazing journey. I love it. So every Monday night, 8:30 Central, we go live and have a live guest, usually via StreamYard, just like you guys do here. Occasionally we get to do somebody in studio, which is always fun. But everybody from Carlito Fuente down to your just starting out brands. It's been an absolute blast.
I know we will have made it when we get Carlito Fuente on the show.
It's funny, when we started, we talked about who's the white whale, and who's the one that makes us get on the map, and absolutely it was Carlito was our name, and he's amazing.
He
Great guest.
really is.
Yep.
And so last year I want to kind of circle around back to now I'm going to say Dorito because you said Dorito, so now it's the Don Doreto's. So because you said you tasted the cigar that was a showing, and then not too long after that, when did you start to work for that? Was it March? No, I can't remember.
So here's another piece. I can really accredit my getting into the cigar industry on the business side to Luis Cuevas from Casa Cuevas Cigars. After we had Luis on our show, he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, would you be willing to chum the waters in the Twin Cities area and see if anyone would be wanting to carry Casa Cuevas, and I'll pay you a commission." Absolutely. So started doing that, and then picked up a couple more brands, and then it outgrew what I was able to do. Brought on a partner, and we started a brokerage where we had 7 different brands that we were brokering between the Dakotas and Ohio was our territory for the Midwest. So I was doing this brokerage, and Juan from Don Doroteo contacted me, and he said, "Hey, I would love to get our cigars in the Midwest. And I heard you're a broker in the Midwest, And I said, Juan, I love you. I absolutely love you. I love your cigar. I love the story. I just don't have room on the portfolio right now." And he was like, "Totally understand. I get it." We talk a couple days later, and it was, "What do we need to do to make this work? Because we want you on our team." And we made it work. And the team of people that we have for Don Doroteo is unbelievable. We have one of the best designers in Jeff Moss, who is a partner. Jeff Moss spent many years with Alec Bradley, is responsible for their rebranding, and is just a rock star when we give him a design concept or anything. I mean, if you look at our artwork, I mean, it's gorgeous, and it goes along with everything that Don Doroteo stands for, from a legacy standpoint to honoring, Doroteo, to being a classy looking cigar. It all is just very symbiotic, and I'm honored to be in this position.
So you're reading our questions before I can actually get them up here to ask you them. You're good. I can tell you've done this before.
He's like, "It's not my first rodeo."
And you make it seem so seamless. Share me your ways, O Master.
Okay. I started. Have you guys seen the YouTube show Hot Ones?
Yes.
Okay. Even if you don't like hot sauces and you don't like wings, if you go to
it's
YouTube,
the challenge.
Yes.
where
Yes.
they have,
Okay. Yes, I have.
So Sean Evans interviews, celebrities as they do this 10-wing increasing in heat wing gauntlet, as they call it.
Yes.
And now I've heard several celebrities on that show say, "This is the best interview I've ever had." And I started really studying the questions he asks, and I don't always get to prepare for a show like I want to. But some of my favorites are Lee Marsh from Stolen Throne. Absolutely love Lee to death. And it was my mission to get Lee to get choked up. And so I reached out to his wife, and I said, "How do I make Lee cry like a baby?" And, she gave me a list of things. And I, if you go back and watch our show with Lee, he almost gets angry because he's like, "Why are you doing this to me?" And just a beautiful moment. So those are the things that I love to do. I love to ask questions and interview people in a way that that other people haven't asked, number one. Or like, my favorite thing is when either Matt and I ask a question and somebody says, "I've never been asked that." That's like a huge win in interviewing anyone, right?
Yep.
So
I've got to say we've heard that comment back to us a couple of times. On a lot of our shows, I tell everybody, yes, we run 2 hours. So I forgot to tell you this, Garrett. We run 2 hours. First hour is generally around the interviewing the guests, and the second hour, we have found ourselves getting into topics such as, mental health. We're both, Red and I are both Christians, and we've gotten into talks about faith. We talked about men's issues, women's issues, education, everything in that second hour of it. And I don't want to change that.
Awesome.
I never want to
Yeah.
change that
Yeah.
because I think that sets us apart.
Yeah.
Well, and
Both.
I think it's also. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, both Matt and I come from a faith background that, the Wednesday night group that we do is a men's group that um, uh, Bible study, prayer group, just solid men's group is, a big part of who we are. And it's really important, that faith piece. I'm a former pastor, Matt,
Oh,
former worship leader. Um, and so, but we decided for our show, we wanted to keep religion, politics, hot topic stuff, um, not necessarily off off
Mhm.
topic, but to um, really tread lightly on those subjects. So we
Mhm.
typically don't head into that too much, but we're not shy about it either. It's just
Mhm.
something we don't. Um,
it
yeah,
it comes naturally in ours. I mean,
yeah,
just through the sake of conversation, we never know where we're going to go in the second half.
Right.
Really, we never know. I do want to hit these couple of questions, and I can see that
Mhm.
Ash is answering, is dancing around wanting to ask a question too. But I think both of these
Oh no, no, I
that
was trying to get comfortable.
oh,
Sorry.
well, yeah, I mean, I'm out here in the heat on this, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Billionaire asked a couple of great questions that kind of fit hand
Yeah.
in hand here. So first one, and I want to get into our pairings because this is the twisted pair. What is your favorite food and cigar pairing? And then from there, where's your favorite place to have that pairing?
So, um, I haven't experimented with food nearly as much as I should, and that was really opened up. If you would do the honor of going back and looking at our show with Chef Ed Porter. Ed was a chef and contested on
Mhm.
the show Pressure Cooker that you can see on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix. He's actually a Minnesota guy. Met him, and he came on our show, and he cooked us a two-course meal with two different cigars that we
Wow.
paired, and
Oh,
Nice.
it blew my mind. And the reason why a lot of people, in most of the country, we don't have an opportunity to at least smoke and eat indoors, or um, uh, there's no restaurant or bar that allows
Right.
cigar smoking and eating. So it's something a lot of people aren't exposed to.
Hmm.
My first experience was in Detroit. They have several where they can eat, smoke, and drink all in the same establishment.
oh, very
Um,
nice.
and I remember eating a seared sea bass with polenta and smoking a Adventura Queen's Pearls. And I was
Oh yeah.
absolutely, blown
Hmm.
away. Wonderful pairing. If I had to go with my favorite, um, Chef Porter made a hummus, and I love hummus. He made this
Hmm.
perfectly blended hummus that wasn't, and I love garlicky hummus, but he
Hmm.
made this hummus that was just perfectly spiced, wonderfully smooth, and how it paired with the cigar was so far has been my favorite food pairing with a cigar.
Hmm.
And then coffee. Um, Gosh, I love coffee and cigars so much. And
Yeah.
my favorite place to smoke a cigar is on a boat fishing.
Okay, so I've never experienced that. I've smoked a cigar on the beach, and I smoked a cigar in the
Hmm.
ocean.
Hmm.
Granted, I was holding it way up here because I didn't want the salt water to
The
get it. So
way.
it's like a
Yeah, just
yeah.
yeah, it's not worth like taking your cigar if you're gonna go pretty far into the waves for
Well,
that.
Well, I have to go way out there because I'm so damn tall. And then every now and then, a tide will come in, and all of a sudden the water's up to my neck, which that would mean that you would be 2 feet underneath water, but
But like I think it's like whenever it's like what you were saying is like there's a lot of places, and I know in Texas, like in this area, there's a they just now opened up a new steakhouse that allows cigars. You
hmm
can smoke your cigars and eat. And then of course
Awesome.
there's Chamberlain's. We have Chamberlain's. That's always been, you know, if you smoke cigars and you eat, that's usually the place to go. There's also a Mexican restaurant where they
Javier's.
have their cigar, yeah, Javier's. But it's kind of, I know a lot of people don't smoke at home or in their home. However, it's like my garage. I changed it into my lounge, and I've eaten in there. And it's like usually it's like I'll do like Saturdays will be like a breakfast, and then usually will be like dinner with the cigar or something. And that's like one thing is I don't think people realize they're tremendous. How much you get so much more out of a pairing when you have food or desserts or something to add to it. And usually, in kind of like when you were going back to the coffee, you were saying if you had a coffee, that you would have a medium, kind of
Hmm.
to go with the medium bodied cigar. And the thing is like usually whenever you look at the region of like, okay, it has this tobacco, and you look at what coffee is in that area,
Hmm.
it's tremendous. Like,
It's
yeah,
yeah.
and it's perfect. And that's kind of it's right there. One of my favorite coffees that I will have with the San Andreas wrapper is there's this blueberry coffee that they have. It's a natural taste of blueberry, and it's in Mexico. There's one in Mexico, and there's also a region in Africa that has this in
Ethiopia.
its taste. Ethiopia,
Hmm.
Ethiopia, and it's got that blueberry flavor, and
Yep.
it's just natural tasting. And with
Yes.
a San Andreas, or it is phenomenal. And most
Well,
people
You
are like
actually hit
blueberry.
you hit my
yeah.
very favorite coffee. Ethiopian coffee
Hmm.
See,
is
I
the
don't.
best.
I don't know enough about coffees. I'm learning, and this is an area that I need to learn more on. Red has taught me
Hmm.
about the pour overs and the French press, and I still grind the beans and put it in my automatic drip. And pour my
But
creamer in there. But I got to tell you, one of my absolute favorite pairings. And we've been doing this year full food pairings, food, drink, cigar on our shows when we haven't had a guest. But one of my absolute favorite pairings was one time Red and I were at a lounge, and there was a coffee shop next door, and she goes over there and grabs some coffee and grabs some cinnamon rolls, brings them back, and I don't even remember the cigar, but it just blew.
Osaka,
Oh, that's right. It was
Yeah,
the
Edgar.
Osaka. Well, it was the
Hmm.
Carboncito, wasn't it?
Yes, Carboncito. Hmm.
Okay. So San Andreas. Uh, but that was one of the most amazing pairings when you've got so many different complex flavors from the coffee to the cinnamon roll and the cigar, and every single one of them just matched perfectly. And I was just like, we have got to do this again, and that's when we really started
Hmm.
talking about doing full pairings on the show. Was after that.
And and I think it's kind of like, and a lot of people, and we talked about it, like they'll go out to their smokers, and when you're smoking like a chicken or a burnt ends or brisket or even fish. I mean, it just depends what you are. You can smell, so you get that, you know, that, and then you have your cigar, and it's like when whenever you were little growing up and your mom would be making Thanksgiving meal and it would take her forever and that turkey would take forever and you could taste the turkey while she was cooking it.
Hmm
That's the
Mhm.
same thing that it does to you whenever you are smoking food out, whenever you're grilling out. And then you notice things about like when you're smoking your cigar. I've never noticed that. And that's because you're getting the flavors, even though you're not eating it. And so, and some people are like, for some reason, this like, tasted really good. And there was something different about the cigar. And I'm like, what were you doing? And they're like, oh, I was, smoking, a chicken, a beer can chicken. And I'm like, you're going to pick up those flavors of and also the wood has an impact on it as well. So,
Hmm.
and it's like when you have that opportunity to include all of that, it just takes it to the next level. And you enjoy it more, I think.
It's interesting that you say that because a couple of Fridays ago I was doing a class out at one of the local lounges, and it was a pairing of a cigar and a couple of whiskeys. And the way that we break it down is just the way we have it in our journal, where we get the notes of the cigar first, cleanse our palate, get the notes of the drink, and then, through the first third, go cigar to drink, drink to cigar, and so forth. And one gentleman that was there, and he's a woodworker, and I noticed that he kept on coming back to how both from the cigar and from the drink that he was picking up oak in both of them predominantly. And because of how much, and he does a lot of turning of wood and he works with a lot of oaks. And so that dust
Hmm.
really starts impacting your sinuses and it lingers. It stays on there
Hmm.
for considerably amount of time afterwards. And I asked him, I said, did you do some woodworking before you came over here this morning? And he goes, I haven't been in the garage for a week. And that it just goes to show. I mean, even if you're out there smoking, a brisket or what have you,
Hmm.
the senses in our nasal passages are so strong that those
Hmm.
type of flavors can linger around for a
Hmm.
considerable amount of time. And no matter how much fuzzy water or ginger or what have you we eat or drink, we're not going to cleanse that. So
Right.
it,
Yep.
it's interesting how, I mean, it's multiple ways that the environment
Hmm.
of where we're in and what we're doing, even if we think it has
Hmm.
nothing to do with our taste buds, can impact what we taste and what we get out of a cigar or a drink.
Right. And that was kind of like I was trying to remember the words. I, I've been working, so I've got work brain today, mush brain. But like I was reading that in my tobacco book yesterday, was how it was like, you get it's mainly from the nose, and then you have your mouth for the taste of cigars. And even like after you smoke a cigar, if you kind of hold your breath, you can still have that taste of that
Hmm.
cigar in your mouth
Hmm.
because you're getting it through the nose. I mean, and it's like it's not really like you don't really taste the cigar as much, but if you hold it's right there and you can taste it together. It's really interesting for that.
I think
So,
that's called
yeah.
olfactory, or if I pronounce it
Yeah,
wrong.
Olfactory.
it's, I
Yeah,
could,
olfactory.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, I can't remember. I was like, I know it begins with an O.
Not not
So,
that not that
uh,
O, Red, not that O.
yeah, not that one. So, I was just like, so if there is an amazing cigar, I say it gives the O factor.
Hmm.
So it's the ultimate climax. So that is,
Yeah.
yes,
I
yeah,
love finding that cigar that gives me the O factor. I do.
What
yeah.
what is it about a cigar that keeps you coming back to it?
Uniqueness. For me, um, if I look at my cigar collection, um, I you know I have cigars that for me hit me in a unique way. Um,
Mhm.
I've started a cigar band sleeve that
Oh,
Yes.
I like
You
that.
already, dude, I was gonna bring that. That was like one of my questions later on. Get out.
I mean, he's a
Okay.
pro. He's already stolen a couple of our
I
questions right off the
know,
bat.
I know. Okay, so anyway, you need to go ahead and elaborate and show off the ink because it is done nicely and I love it because they are the bands of cigars.
Oh, there's
So
the
So
Opus.
there is Opus. There's Opus,
So that was the
and
first
then you.
one, and it wasn't planned. My son was getting his first tattoo, and call came into the shop. Lady calls in the back, says your 4 o'clock just canceled. He comes out and he was like, "Well, what am I going to do for the next 4 hours?" And I had the idea of getting a cigar sleeve for a long time, so I
Mhm.
brought him and I showed him the band, and he was like, "I love it. If you do it right now, I'll do it for half off."
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, it's done. And we started talking. He's like, I'm just starting to get into cigars, blah, blah. We finish up.
Mhm.
I invite him out to a cigar lounge. We're having cigars. And he's like, I don't have anything. I don't have a humidor. I don't know where to start. I don't, he's like, would you be interested in exchanging cigar stuff and cigars for tattoo work? I was like, yep. So
Twist
long
Exactly.
my
story
arm. Twist
short,
my arm.
yeah, long story short, I'm paid up for an entire sleeve. So the Opus was my first one. The second one was Adventura.
Adventura, right? Okay.
Um, third one was is Stolen Throne.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, latest one is this is Fausto from Tatawahe,
Uh-huh.
Mhm. Mhm.
and um,
What's the next one gonna be?
so it's a secret, but you'll see it at the PCA.
Ah.
I'm not
Are
telling
you
Spilling
you
the
gonna
anything.
teeth. Okay.
are you gonna do an Ave Maria? I think an Ave Maria band would be a hell of a tattoo.
I think it would be a beautiful tattoo. Ave Maria probably won't make it on my arm, but a few of the other brands that are going to make it on my arm, I'm getting a Dissident lightning bolt
Oh,
here.
Oh, very,
very cool.
very cool.
Um, I'm getting a JC Newman right underneath the Fuente, so the little JC Newman house.
Mhm.
And then after all of the bands or all of the logos are on, we're filling all of the empty space with smoke.
Very cool.
Oh,
So
very cool.
Now, if you come back and you show us a Leaf and Grain logo on there, because we've had our band, the cigar's no longer available. But if we've had our band, but if you come back with the Leaf and Grain, that's gonna be cool. The reason why I'm saying this, there's a funny story behind why I'm saying that. Um, back in the early '90s, I met some friends of mine and we got together and we decided we wanted to do a comic book, and so I wrote the comic book, did some of the ink work. Another friend did the artwork, and another friend, did some of the ink work and came up with the concept. And so we spent a year just traveling around doing comic book conventions. And so we pull into Vegas and we do the big convention in Vegas, and we happen to know the real Al Simmons, behind Spawn, and we know Todd McFarlane, but Al Simmons we were friends with, and so when we saw Al goes, so where are you guys set up at? And I was like, oh, we're way in the back, and he goes, hold on, let me pull some strings. And so he actually got our tables moved to where we were right across the aisle from Todd McFarlane. So huge, huge, huge spot for us. I mean, in cigars, that's like being right next door to, Arturo Fuente, you know,
yeah,
type of, spot. And this guy, I mean, we're nobody. We've got one issue. We had an ash can version of it. And this guy comes up, and instead of him going to Todd McFarlane and all of these big guys, he comes directly to us, and he's like, oh my God, I can't believe that you guys are here. And we're like, what? We're nobodies. Pulls one of our comic books out of his backpack. Didn't buy one from us there, I mean, at that time, but I mean, he bought a couple more, but pulls one of our comic books out of his backpack, has us sign it, and then pulls up his arm sleeve, and there's a tattoo on his arm of the cover of our comic book on his arm. And I'm
Very
like,
cool.
dude, I got two things to say. One, that is cool as fuck. Is it after
yep.
9?
Yes.
Sorry. It's after 9 somewhere.
Good.
I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I was like, that is cool as, and I'm like, are you out of your mind? We're nobodies. And I mean, we were like the one-hit wonder of cigar of comic books. We produced that one, and that was it. We're nowhere more to be found. So that's where that kind of like, man, if you come back with a leaf and grain logo tattooed on you, I'm like thinking that would happen to me twice in my life.
I love
But
it.
I am. That is like one of my things. Is like whenever you have some, like I'm getting my logo, and I'm sitting here trying to think, okay, where do I want to get it? Because like whenever you do get it, because we all have our tattoos, and I'm not one who's like rash. I thought throughout every single tattoo I got, and and all of mine have meaning, you know. And so I'm sitting here trying to think where I want it, but because of my day job and education, I can't have my logo where the kids can see it. But
I
that would be a pretty cool tattoo. I'm just saying, my
I'm
logo
just
would be
saying.
really.
I
It's
I've
sexy. It's hot.
I've got the X-Men logo right here, and so I've been considering having our logo, the leaf and grain or the twisted pear, put on this back shoulder. But my personal logo, it's hard to see them, and you're going to see an old guy with a gray beard, and people are going to go,
Yeah,
"What
if
is this kind
Garrett
of
got
vanity?"
that, yeah. Now if Garrett got that, I would pay for that.
Here's a good question.
Yeah.
Billionaire is coming out with the questions.
Questions.
This is a good one. What is your favorite
Mhm.
memory and moment you had smoking a cigar that is just you'll never let go of?
So, not to be a Debbie Downer, but we had a brother who was just one of the greatest guys in our little group of cigar smokers. Lived in Indiana, and Tim Suitcamp passed away due to complications from COVID and pneumonia. And we went to the funeral and back to his house to look at his cigar collection. And his wife then opened a box for each of us to take out and smoke. Very,
Mhm.
special cigar. And I'll always hold that, as we're just sitting around this fireplace, smoking on this
Mhm.
cigar that was, Tim's. Was just a wonderful way to commemorate that moment and celebrate his life and what he meant. So it's probably a memory that I will hold dear for many many years.
I love it, love it. Here's some
Yeah.
smoke in the air for your
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mhm.
Where's your cigar, Red? Did you finish it?
I finished it. I was smoking fast tonight. Sorry.
I'm coming down to the nub. So
Yeah.
let's circle back a little bit. And
Mhm.
how did that pair with your iced coffee?
Oh, it was, of course, it was great. Enjoyed it. It balanced it out. Towards the end, the coffee picked up on like I could taste the brown sugar, and so with the Nicaraguan, it's kind of like a bitterness.
Mm,
So at the end, it wasn't very good, but at the first and the second, third, it paired really well. So
I think I was getting a bit of the same with my coffee. I mean, it's so
yeah,
hot out here that I've
yeah,
practically drowned down my coffee. But that
hmm
that sweetness, that after
right,
sweetness with it, with this cigar, really there was kind of a little bit of a bitter moment. Not bad,
yeah,
to where I would say that it was
right,
a bad pairing that I just got to stop.
right.
But it wasn't as good as what I was hoping it to be, and I don't think the cigar was able to stand up to it.
Right. And that's kind of whenever you're getting into like, like Garrett was saying, it's always good like when you have the black coffee. But I'm gonna say whenever it feels like it's 120 outside today. Kid you not. And even if you go out just for a minute running to your car, it it takes your breath away. So it's just kind of like that. Even with cold black coffee, it's not the same. It's not refreshing to me with this heat. So I usually tend during the summer to get that, those flavors, added stuff into my coffee. And that's going to happen whenever you have that condensed, with the milk and sweetness coming together on your cigar. It's going to get that bitterness to it, but it's not going to be like where you have bitter beer face. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mm.
you'll taste it, and it's usually just towards the end because when you drink your coffee, what happens to all the sugars and everything? It goes down towards the end.
Yeah.
So you're at the end of your drink and the end of your cigar, so it's going to pick up on that both. So I'm interested to see how the if you were able to taste any of the citrus with yours, how that
Yes.
works. Garrett.
Yeah, so this is not a unique pairing for me at
Right.
all. I have plenty of this and do this often.
Mhm.
And I mean, yeah, you guys hit it on the head. The citrus and the carbonation help cleanse the palate every time. What
Mhm.
it doesn't do, and we talked about it too, is the
Mhm.
the retro um, keeps that lingering flavor of the cigar through the
Mhm.
olfactory, and it's wonderful. I love the palate cleansing beverages that give
Mhm.
you the true transitions of the cigar,
Mhm.
um, where it doesn't continue to build and blend up, which is great. I love that too, but
Mhm.
I also appreciate the cleansing nature of this. And yeah, the citrus
Mhm.
does come through, brightens everything up, and then you pull on your cigar again, and it's just this another blast of yumminess. So it's
Right.
I
wonderful.
I
And
like that. I'm gonna have to try
I
that.
wanted to, I wanted to ask because you were talking about the Colombian tobacco, right?
Hmm.
And how some people are saying it's this, and this. Now you've smoked your cigar several different times, and have you tasted different areas, like different, like, okay, it tastes cinnamon today, or it tastes like this? Has that kind of, or has it kind of been
So
consistent when you've had it? I mean, I'm
yeah,
just
for
talking
me,
myself, not adding it with different things. Hmm.
yeah, so for me, and it, the power of suggestion is so strong.
Hmm.
That's why I hate reading a review or when somebody tells me a cigar tastes a certain thing. It's taken me a long
Yeah.
time to be able to throw all of that out and then just
Hmm.
Hmm.
um, uh, be able to experience the cigar naturally. But I have not found that thing that I can
Hmm.
attribute or I feel like this tastes like this. And
Hmm.
that's why I love this cigar so much is there is no word, there is no descriptor for it. It's just it's unique and it's wonderful and
Hmm.
it doesn't taste like anything else that I can attribute to it. And I'll be the first one to tell you I don't have the palate that will tell you this tastes like cedar fermented unicorn tears. Um, and there are people
Okay.
that
You're
honestly
missing
do.
out. That's like the best. That's like
I
the
I
best.
mean,
know.
The
I've heard.
unicorn tears. Yeah.
those are the L
Mermaids are
factors.
better. Yeah, mermaids are better. I'm just saying, mermaid tears are better than unicorn tears. But when you get to that status, you'll realize it.
All right. I'll keep working on it.
Well, it's fun. I mean, our running joke is, I have a fun time when I'm reading reviews, and I never read the reviews
Hmm.
before I go to smoke a cigar because it does, provide an impression. But I have fun when I read those reviews, and the one that I always make a joke, make fun at is where I read this one review, and he said, this tastes like a three meat meatloaf with a bacon lettuce and a hickory barbecue sauce, coating on it, and it's like, okay, yeah, you don't taste that. But we've created a pairing, what we call a pairing wheel, which is, really it's a
Hmm.
notes wheel that
Mhm.
combines the cigar tasting notes, wine tasting notes, whiskey tasting notes,
Yep.
and we've added
Coffee.
like 10 more coffee tasting notes. And so it's a huge
Hmm.
wheel. And we tell people, it's like, okay, there's multiple ways of growing your palate. You can grow it from the scientific, and the scientific aspect of the sensory, but we teach people through the psychological. And what is it
Hmm.
that it reminds you of? Now look at that wheel and see where it draws you down into. So, if it's those unicorn tears, maybe that's a little bit salty and it's coming down into this area. No, wait, that would have been the mermaids, the salty.
That
The
was
the
my nerve
mermaids,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the unicorn would have been those woodsy type notes,
Yeah.
but you see where I'm going. And see
I
where
do.
it takes you to. So where
Hmm.
someone says, the three meatloaf with lettuce, okay, so you're getting a little bit of brown sugar, you're getting some gamey notes,
Salt.
you're getting some of the salty from the bacon and it's different stuff, and that's how you grow your palate,
Yep.
is by you
Right.
associating an actual flavor with a memory,
Hmm.
Yeah,
and you're
that's right.
Right.
creating that connection. Oh, I love this. Joey G, and this is one of the greatest honors I think that in my memory that for me that we've had is Joe. Joe is a writer for the Whiskey Network magazine, and I'm a writer for the Whiskey Network magazine as well. But he reviewed our cigar and did a pairing, and he brought us on to what was then the Great Lakes Smoke Show, now the Great Smoke and Tobacco or Cigar and Tobacco Show,
Hmm.
and he did a review of it and went out in the magazine, and then he sent me this big old plaque of the article, and he did mention that he got unicorn tears on our
Mm,
robusto.
that is fantastic.
Our
So it
cigar
has
our
been
cigar
said.
was blended by the one and only Noel Rojas.
Oh, fantastic.
So yeah, we,
And
we
so
we were very fortunate.
I bet I can answer a billionaire's question on this. Well, one of them. Do you have any mentors or someone you admire in this industry? So I'm going to say with one that I know that you have huge amount of respect and is besides Matt, also Skip. You can't say Skip Martin because I'm I'm going to take that one away from you. But you can go ahead and say Skip. I was just kidding with you.
Uh, Literally so many. Um,
Hmm.
for different areas. Yes,
Hmm.
Skip. Um, uh, Henderson Ventura
Oh,
um,
okay.
is
Yeah.
his his palette and his blending and personality is just. I think in a handful of years,
Hmm.
Henderson will be
Uh,
um,
Oh,
Jack.
we couldn't hear what you
Yeah,
said.
we lost your audio just for a second there.
Oh, you got me back.
Yeah, we got you back.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, Henderson, and then Jack Tarano
Okay.
um, from Espinosa
Hmm.
Cigars has been a fantastic, just mentor and resource. Um, um, Another up and comer is Enrique Cejas from Matilde Cigars.
Oh yeah.
Um, um, Gosh, I've been extremely fortunate that when I came into this position, the amount of people that reached out and said, if you need anything, I'm here. And when I've reached out, they haven't been bullshitting me. They have all been
Hmm.
absolutely wonderful about sharing information. Um, and it's just been a wonderful, wonderful ride. So there's a lot in there, but those would
Hmm.
be some of the tops.
So Red, back to you. Same question.
Hmm. Oh my goodness. It, I'm gonna kind of the moments that I've had, like with the personal connections with one that I always go to that's right off the bat is Karen Berger. And one of the coolest moments was she came to Texas and she was, had an event and I attended, and it was really nice just to kind of sit with her and talk to her about being a woman in this industry, a woman who smokes cigars, trying to make it in this industry, but also being mothers, and that challenge. And it was it was just really fascinating to talk about, like, you know, just sitting down, relaxing, and just, you know, listening to her advice, suggestions that she had. But I feel like I'm older than her. But here's the thing: is it doesn't matter your age. You can always
No.
learn something and get advice from people who are younger. Um, Noel Rojas has always been one. He's, we've kind of been spoiled, David, because we have access to these people where other people haven't had access to
Oh
Noel
yeah.
and things like that. Another one right off the bat is Luciano. Anytime he comes down, just to get his knowledge and to soak up what he knows about, the whole from seed to the cigar. And it's amazing to watch him take two cigars. He wasn't happy with how they were at the last NFG. He cut them in half, took things, and created a whole new cigar. And just did it right there on the table and said, "Hey, you want to smoke it and see what it tastes? Let's see what it's like." That was really, and he's always been very complimentary, encouraging me to do things and to learn. Um, Another one would be Raymond, from Rod- uh, Providencia, even though
Providencia,
they're
yeah.
not yeah, even though they're not around anymore. Just the knowledge and stuff that he has shared with us, and 262 Ohana, it's just kind of, it's been really nice. And I'm also going to say, Philip, this
Philip
next
Huffman,
week is,
yeah.
yeah, I end my apprenticeship. I will be done with my apprenticeship in the retail tobacco industry. So now I kind of made a joke. I said, "You don't get free labor anymore. Now you got to pay me." So, but it's just kind of, it's like, as this part, we're breaking down the cigars and we're getting to know this. And I just thought working at a retail cigar shop wouldn't be that difficult. I mean, shoot, you can smoke a cigar and just make the boxes look pretty on the shelves, and that's it. I've learned about tobacco, how you order, how you get the stuff, like what, how to put events together, and how you contact people, learning what's going to sell in your humidor in your area, even though you may love a cigar and you might want to bring it in, you can't do it because your clientele may not do that. And one neat thing was like learning just to have a retail shop and the type tobacco. I've learned so much from Stephen, who is at the Plano store, which I am today, as versus working at the cigar lounge, being the actual lounge. And it's, I kind of make a joke on this whole entire experience because everyone goes, "Well, don't you just stand around and smoke cigars all day?" And yeah, I mean, sure. No, it's a joke. If I can finish a cigar for that day, it's going to be a miracle. And that's because, things, you're pricing the cigars, you're checking your inventory, you're checking the trays to make sure like all the cigars are facing one way, there's no trash, there's, it's plume, not mold kind of a thing. And when you have as many facings as we do in both shops, we have a ton of cigars. Then you have to go to the back end. I've learned so much, and I'm glad I've had the opportunity to go ahead and do this. So that's a huge thing. Is like, when I went to him, I was like, "Hey, how would you like to take me on?" He didn't hesitate, and he's like, "Come aboard. We're excited to have you." And he's taught me everything he's could. So that's going to be huge for me right there too.
I so many great ones. And I think for me, from Noel Rojas, just with
Mhm.
his knowledge of the process, and Luciano, and I think one of my greatest moments Because so much respect for Luciano. Two of my greatest moments. One was he was at the underground and he was doing a talk about cigars and about profiles and about getting notes on it. And he goes, and you remember because you were there, we were recording, and he goes, now when it comes to pairing with whiskeys, I'm gonna have to point you over to Graybeard because he knows his whiskeys better than I know 'em. And so I thought that was really good. But when we had him on our show and he was doing this walkthrough of his factory, and we come back and we're talking about how we go about the pairings and such, and we get through with that part of the segment, and he goes, "Wow, I learned something from you guys on pairings." And so that was huge. I mean, that was, to me, that was like the ultimate respect, because the man is, he was one that I would consider a master blender, and I would consider him in my top five of master blenders. On the media side, because I mean, Garrett, there's a lot of work that comes into putting together these shows. From planning out the guests and doing the research, for the interviews, making sure that you're asking the right questions, not asking the same repeated question over and over and over again that you guys hear every single time, and you're tired of answering, and you want to come back and go, just go watch one of my other shows, people. Seriously. It is David Skeleton from the Texas Cigar Roadshow, and I've been on his show. I have a regular segment on his show, and we're coming up on 2 years that I've been on his show. But just watching him and his professionalism and his excitement, he's always engaged and energized in every single thing that he does. From I'm Dave, I'm a Texan, and I love cigars. This is the road show. I mean, it's consistent, and I've learned so much about behind the scenes. I mean, we're setting up almost an hour before we even go on. Going over what we're going to cover, how we're going to do the pairings, setting up the lights and everything. Learned so much from him on that, and so for me, he's a mentor that I love and appreciate so much, because I think it's really helped our shows transition from just the Instagram of we're just getting on and having a talk to really having a format of what we do and how we do it. So and I could go on with different people that I've met and have talked to and have learned from, both in a casual sense and in a, hey, I've got this question, but those are the three that really come to mind.
Yeah, and if I want to give a couple more shout outs. So Cigar Coop was absolutely and continues to be not only a great friend but great mentor in the media circle. And then Miguel Shodell from Crown Heads.
We had him on 2 weeks ago. Love him.
Yeah.
So, Miguel was he was the first guy I really got a great rapport with on the brokering or repping side of the business, and he's become a really good friend. Love Miguel.
Yeah.
He's amazing. Okay.
We've got a couple of great questions here.
Oh.
I mean, billionaire is
one
just.
of them better not be mine, because everybody keeps stealing my questions, and I'm upset.
Okay, so you go ahead with your question, then I'll come to billionaires.
I'll let you go to billionaires. Go ahead and go.
Okay, so I'm going to combine both of these two into one. So I'm going to show the one where it says, okay, since you don't drink, and yes, I echo the congratulations on the sobriety. That's a big accomplishment, and wish you all the best on continuing that. But how are you able to navigate through an industry that cigar and alcohol are such a big part of? And do you have any tips for anyone else that's on a similar journey?
Oh, absolutely. So, I love when we have a show and, Matt is pairing something spirited with his cigar, because I always learn something, and I can take that limited knowledge and spread that to others that do indulge. And it, you know, I'm at a place now where I can actually, I'll take a smell of, whatever Matt's drinking, and appreciate that. That's not for everyone, and that's not something I would recommend certainly to somebody who's new into recovery. Don't play with fire in that way.
Right.
But I have no issues with it today. I am grounded in the fact that I know that drinking and chemicals result in not good things for me at all. So for me, it's a non-issue. I'm not tempted by it. And then, I love my coffees. I love my teas. I love my sparkling waters. And there's a lot of other beverages out there. The one thing that I will really, tell people, and this actually is for both alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages, is anything that is very sweet is oftentimes going to take away from any natural sweetness you have in a cigar. So I would stay away from super sweet beverages, whether it's, and I know there's a lot of people who love to pair, Coke or Dr. Pepper or other really sweet drinks with cigars. For me, it kills natural sweetness in a cigar. So don't do it.
We tried that.
We did.
And we were not successful, because like you see it all the time. You see Dr. Peppers, you see it. And I noticed before I was like really pairing things, like I'd always never finish my Dr. Pepper or soda. And like I'm not a big soda person anyway. And I had a flight of sodas because I was like, okay, I'm not sure which one is going to go. And I did natural raw sugar, like the sugar cane. And I did crafted sodas. And I couldn't get through any of them. It was just like that. You talk about major bitterness, like, at the end, because I said everything had settled in the coffee with the brown sugar and everything. And it tastes it was like a bitter beer face the entire time I was sitting there. And finally, I just chunked it because I couldn't enjoy it. And I think Graybeard ended up doing the same thing.
We both went back to our bourbon.
Yeah, we stopped doing that and we went and got our bourbon because we couldn't enjoy the cigar. It was just like, it was just too much of that sweetness that you were talking about. And it's kind of
we've had so many people that have come back, and we've talked about this many times, smoking a cigar and come back and said, oh, I just couldn't get into that cigar. And we've turned to ask them, okay, so what were you eating? What were you drinking? What were you doing? And we tell everybody, we're coming up on getting close to 100 shows that we've done so far that, in the past 2 years. And just about in every show, we tell people, if you have a pairing that's not good, change the drink, change the food. Don't throw away the cigar, because one, a bottle of bourbon on average is going to run me around $50 to $60. Okay, so that, and I'm going to get quite a number of pours out of that. At least I hope. Otherwise, I've got a different kind of problem, and you and I are going to be having a different conversation, Garrett. So don't throw away the cigar to keep the drink, because that cigar is going to cost you nowadays at a minimum of $10. And when we're talking about your cigars, and the luxury lines, you're going to you're going to be looking at $20, $30, $40 a cigar. Well, that one cigar costs as much as a bottle. No, I'm going to I'm going to go put the bottle back on my bar and find something else, or just go to water. That way I can enjoy the cigar in its natural sense.
Yep. Right. And then wine and ports, the same applies. There's there's more sweet wines and sweet ports, I would stay away from them because the same applies.
We've
That
done
being
some
said,
pairings with some ports
Yeah.
that have been exceptional
Phenomenal.
pairings,
Yeah.
but it
Yep.
comes down to what we've talked about. You've got to know what's in the cigar.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
an Ecuadorian Sumatra, like what's in yours. Well, the terroir in Ecuador is their biggest export is bananas. A lot of the farms are surrounded by banana farms, banana plantations, and so
Mhm.
you're going to get a lot of those sweet or tropical fruit notes with that.
Right.
Less of the peppery notes like what you would get
Mhm.
from an Ecuadorian cigar. So I mean a Nicaraguan cigar. So an Ecuadorian or say a Brazilian Matapina, which is going to give you a lot of those black fruit
Mhm.
notes, is going to go good with that. So you've got to
Right.
know what is in that cigar to know what's going to pair well with it.
Exactly.
and if
And
you're a red wine drinker,
mhm.
the Mas Igneous from Luciano's
Oh
line
yes,
Oh yeah.
was developed specifically for red wines.
Right.
yep.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, and he was talking about, he looked at the pH balance of the wine and designed that pH balance for the cigar to go so it could fit. And so you have to look at that. I mean, I'm not saying go look at the pH balance, but when you're sitting there, like last week, I think I called Graybeard and I was like, hey, I have this cigar, and I'm now on another podcast on Instagram. And so for that cigar, I said, it's this and this and this. And I said, I'm thinking either this or this. And I said, I'm even thinking about like the chocolate dessert red blended wine. But I thought that was kind of out there because sometimes I do tend to go out there with my wines. And sometimes Graybeard was like, I'm not sure. But I like to live like on the edge, I guess. And he was like, yeah. He's like, yes, that would be great. And he's like, no, that's not far. He goes, that's exactly what came to my mind. So you have to kind of know, and we talk about knowing the region of where that tobacco is, because like some regions, like in Nicaragua, you're going to get that spicy, volcanic, peppery, but there's other regions that give you a floral, taste to
Or
it.
salty.
So,
Yep.
right. And then
Or
like,
salty.
yeah, or salty. And then you've got like your, Honduras, which is kind of, we talk about in Dominican, and sometimes they can kind of be hay, a hay type, or earthy or gravel. So I think it's kind of, whenever, and that's one thing is like I do appreciate, and it kind of almost is frustrating me that we're kind of seeing this more and more. A lot of cigars industries are putting undisclosed. It's just Nicaragua, undisclosed, or it's from this region, undisclosed, or they won't even tell you the region. And for people who like to pair their cigars or, want to put something with it, it makes it a little bit more difficult, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. It does make it more difficult unless you've got just a really good palate and you know your regions really well, and you know the typical flavors that you're going to get out of different
Hmm.
regions based on the normal um, environmental factors in that
Hmm.
region. You're not going to know what you're going to get. Very few of
Right.
us can pick up a cigar, an unbanded cigar, and I love smoking unbanded cigars, and then coming in, and trying to pick out, what the blend is. And I can do
Hmm.
pretty good with the wrapper, and sometimes I can get the binder. But there's so many variations that the fillers
Right.
will come in and have an impact. You know, I
Hmm.
I wish we could apply the truth in labeling, to cigars, but we're never going to be able to. And if we did, then and one of the things we're trying to do is also is to change the way the cigars are described. A full body, medium body, light body cigar has to do with the viscosity, the mouthfeel of the smoke. Has nothing to
Hmm.
do with the intensity of the flavors. And a strong cigar has to do with the acidity and the ammonia levels and the nicotine levels. Well, just like with a red wine and the tannin levels, the more it
Hmm.
ages, the more that seduces. So
Right.
what would be considered an extremely strong cigar now aged in my humidor for 3 months is not going to be as strong. And depending upon how I cut it, I may have a full body, heavy smoke, and I cut it with a little bit more of an open cut, and or a smaller cut, like a punch, and the body of it's not going to be as much, is because I'm not getting as much smoke into my palate
Hmm.
on that. So I would love if we could change the industry, not to where we can eliminate those, but we can define a cigar as in the boldness or the intensity of the flavors
Right.
that we get in it. Because now, I mean, we don't come back to a cigar because it's ultra strong, or we don't come back to a cigar because it's light bodied, has little smoke or a lot of smoke. We come back to a cigar because of the
The
flavors. That's what
flavors.
draws us to it.
Hmm.
And that's what keeps us going back to it. Oh, I really enjoy. What did you enjoy about it? Oh, I loved all those peppery notes. But that's not
Yeah.
strong. That's a taste. That's a flavor.
Hmm. Right.
Did I just blow your mind on that one, Garrett? Or
I agree. No, I have nothing
Yeah.
to add.
So, so you kind of told us a little bit about the future for Don Doreto's cigars. Is there anything that you would like to add or that you're looking forward to for the future with them and for them?
I'm just excited for um, everybody to try not only the El
Hmm.
Legato line, but also our new Salt of
Hmm.
the Earth line.
Yeah.
We're super excited about it. And so
Yes.
we're launching it at PCA. Red, you'll be able to try it. Um, and then um, it'll be shipping in August to retailers. So
Very good. Very good. Anything?
well, you have any other questions, Red? Was that your one question that you wanted to ask?
I remember I had another one, but it just went when we were. I should have held on to it and written it down, but yeah, that didn't happen. I wasn't thinking today.
Well, I think I'm going to be selfish because I'm going to have to go and peel these clothes off of me because it is still, I mean, it is 13 minutes to 9 here, and it is still like 94, 95 degrees outside. So
The
I want
humidity is not
to,
gracious to us.
no. Um, let's bring this to a close. I want to say thank you, Garrett, for coming on. I thoroughly enjoyed this time learning about you, learning about your show, learning about Don Doroteo.
yep.
Okay, Don
Yeah, you
Doroteo, I
did
did
it.
it. Yes,
Yeah.
remove the Texan out of me. No, don't. Thank you so much for the time. And one of the things that we always close in and we always ask, and yes, we ask this of everybody, is
Hmm.
how is it that we, as in Leaf and Grain and the Twisted Pair, can help Don Doroteo grow?
Oh, I think just it's another, it's more eyes on our brand. And
Hmm.
hopefully I've enticed several to go out and, check it out. If there's not a retailer near you, our online partner is Cigar Hustler. So please go and check out cigarhustler.com where you can find us um, and get our cigars.
I would also say if your local retailer does not have their cigars, also reach out to Garrett and see about you
Hmm.
know how
Mhm.
you can get their line
Yeah.
into your brick and mortar. And
Hmm.
we're always about supporting the brick and mortar. And if we can't,
Yes.
this particular case, we want to support the business on this. So coming up, everybody, we have got some great shows. We got some great guests coming up. Our next 3 shows are going to be some guests, and I'm not going to tell you who they are right now because we want you to be surprised. We want you to come back. Great cigar vendors, and we're going to be talking to a number of them at coming up to PCA, and Red and Albert and our own cigar traveler Zach are going to be talking to all of the different cigar manufacturers, vendors, and retailers, and everybody that's out at PCA. And so glad, we're excited that this is going to be our first time ever out at PCA. Continue growing the brand. Gonna ask everybody to please go out. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit like, hit that notification so that you know when we're going live. Be looking for more different types of segments being published to our YouTube channel. And go out to our website. We've got a lot of great reviews out there and more coming out there. So please support us by giving us that traffic. That's the biggest way that you can support us, is by subscribing and going out and reading. I'm going to ask that Garrett and Red, you both kind of stay on just a little bit. But until then, as we always say, explore the pairings.
There's something for everyone. You'll have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.